I'm calling tonight's meeting of the Falmouth Planning Board to order. Today is July 8th, 2025, and we are meeting at Falmouth Town Hall. My name is John Drewley, and I am currently the chair of the Planning Board. And before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that this is a public meeting and is being conducted in accordance with the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law. Please take a moment to silence your mobile devices or any electronics that could have an interruption here. Anyone wishing to speak should come to the podium, wait to be recognized by the chair, and state their name for the record before making remarks. We encourage respectful and constructive dialogue during public comment periods. Thank you. We'll now proceed to the first item on the agenda, which is public comment. If anyone wishes to speak about something that's not on the agenda this evening, please come to the podium, state your name, and share with us what you'd like to talk about. Seeing no one coming to the podium, we'll begin the meeting this evening. So first on our agenda would be the minutes. Has everyone reviewed the minutes? Yep. Tom, you okay with
Yes, I am.
Make a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Of June 24th,
June
2025?
24th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. The second item on our agenda is the covenant release request. We have two properties, 187 Central Avenue, subdivision plan, and we have 2 Lewis Street definitive subdivision plan. And both of these are not going to be heard this evening because we have not received the referral back from the engineering. And the referral would give us an idea of what the bond should be if we're going to release this. So second, we have Edward Moritz and Tom Reed.
Absolutely, yeah.
For 961, correct?
Atwater Drive.
This is the withdrawal, requested withdrawal.
This one right here?
Nope, nope, nope,
Right here.
right here.
Wait for the minute, wait for the agenda.
July 3rd, 2025, from the Falmouth Planning Board regarding the 23 Atwater Drive accessory dwelling unit planning board application withdrawal. Dear board members, recent changes to our estate planning have eliminated the need for rental income to help support us as my wife and I get older. We are 74 and 70 and we're concerned about the future, but that is no longer an issue. Therefore, we are requesting that our accessory dwelling unit application be withdrawn without prejudice. I apologize if this has put an unnecessary burden on you all. Sincerely, Ed Moritz, 23 Atwater Drive, Falmouth.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion for this?
Motion to the vote. Sure.
Yep. So I move that we accept the applicant's request to withdraw without prejudice.
Thank you. And a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. So next on our agenda is a planning board decision. The applicant is Donald Lunn. Site plan review, application to construct a detached accessory dwelling at 34 Overlook Drive. I think we have a decision on that, a proposed decision. Someone in red, Tom.
Tom's going to
Which one?
Overlook Drive.
Yeah.
I can do that. Draft 7825. Motion that the planning board votes to approve the application of Donald Lunn for the construction of a detached one-bedroom accessory dwelling unit located at 34 Overlook Circle under section 240-12.2, site plan review of the zoning bylaw, with the following findings and conditions. Findings: The applicant is proposing to construct a detached one-bedroom accessory dwelling unit on the property. The principal dwelling is currently 4 bedrooms, which means the total bedroom count for the property with the ADU will be 5 bedrooms. The accessory dwelling unit proposed at 832 square feet will be 37% of the principal dwelling, which complies with Section 240-9.1C5 of the zoning bylaw. The site plan shows room for parking for both the principal dwelling and the accessory dwelling unit, therefore complying with Section 240-9.1C and 240-14.1E of the zoning bylaw respectively. Comments made by the abutters during the board's public meeting were not in objection to this project. Pursuant to Section 240-12.2 of the zoning bylaw, this site plan review decision shall lapse 3 years from the date.
Whole page there.
Oh, behind here?
Yep.
Excuse me. The board finds that the information provided by the applicant conforms to all of the requirements of Sections 240-9.1 and 240-12.2 of the zoning bylaw. Conditions. The plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the planning board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. 2, the applicant shall install dry wells, rain garden, or other stormwater infiltration measures for the new roof area. The project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public right-of-way. 3, any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. 4, construction of this project shall follow the town's, in quotes, soil, erosion, and sediment control standard conditions, end quote. 5, the applicant shall see the engineering division for address assignment for the new building prior to applying for a building permit. Upon completion of construction, the applicant shall post the address for this building per section 99-1 of the town code. 6, the project shall meet all applicable standards set forth in the building code as determined by the building commissioner. 7, rental periods shall be not less than 6 months, and weekly or monthly rentals, in parentheses, so-called summer rentals, are expressly prohibited. 8, pursuant to Section 240-12.2 of the zoning bylaw, this site plan review decision shall lapse 3 years from the date it is granted if substantial use thereof has not sooner commenced except for good cause. 9, the applicant shall contact the assessor's office for an inspection of the ADU prior to certificate of occupancy. And 10, the applicant shall obtain the required rental registrations from the health department prior to renting the ADU.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
I have a question for the town planner. Is it the state's intention and our intention to eliminate this process that we just did, and we're not going to do this anymore, and the building inspector will take this role over, no more site plan? I thought I heard you mention that at one of our last meetings. So is that the way we're going? So it's not going to be us anymore, and it'll just be the building inspector, and we won't do these anymore?
Not necessarily. So it's not the state's intention.
I
It's-
thought I misunderstood you, I thought.
Yeah, it was just a suggestion from the planning staff, but if the board is not comfortable. we
Okay,
won't make
that means we get to discuss it sometime, another time. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, wait.
I thought it was just for
Time and a place.
ADUs, too.
A time and a place, yeah.
Likely next meeting.
Okay, good. Sorry to hold you up.
No, it's okay, thank you. Next applicant is GHD Inc., site plan review application to construct a 1,334 square foot municipal wastewater lift station at 632 T-Ticket Highway. And Tom, we have a proposed decision for that also, please.
Okay, sir. draft on 7/8/25. Motion that the planning board votes to approve the application of GHD Incorporated for the construction of a municipal wastewater lift station located at 632 T-Ticket Highway under Section 240-12.2, site plan review of the zoning bylaw, with the following findings and conditions. Findings. The applicant is proposing to construct a 1,334 square foot municipal wastewater lift station with associated infrastructure and parking. Specifically, the proposed structure and infrastructure components will be located on a 39,000 plus or minus square foot area on the northern end of the 20-acre property closest to Brick Hill Road. This proposed lift station is a vital component of the Great Pond Phase 1 sewer project, anticipated to serve approximately 600 parcels on the northeast portion of the Mara Vista and T-Ticket Path peninsulas. The wastewater flow from the Phase 1 area will be conveyed by this new lift station and the new force mains to the town's existing main wastewater treatment facility on Blacksmith Shop Road, where it will be treated and discharged to the town's existing open sand beds. The site plan shows 4 parking spaces for the proposed lift station. As the proposed use is not listed in the minimum parking requirements table under 240-14.1E, the building commissioner has determined the proposed number of parking spaces is adequate for the proposed use. The board is granting the following waivers requested by the applicant. Number 1, 240-12.2E, 2I, access and circulation requirements to allow a driveway to exceed 24 feet in width at the street line. Number 2, 240-14.3B, landscape plan required, to not require a landscaping plan submission. Number 3, 240-14.3D5, landscape performance standards, street trees, to not require the installation of street trees. Number 4, 240-14.3D8, landscape performance standards, parking lot interiors, to not require vegetated islands within paved areas behind the street setback. And number 5, 300-15K, site plan contents, screening, lighting, fences, walls, and signs, to not require screening, surfacing, including ground cover, lighting, fences, walls, and signs. Although there were comments made during the board's public meeting, the board has determined that the applicant has adequately addressed the issues raised. The board finds that the information provided by the applicant conforms to all of the requirements of Section 240-12.2 of the zoning bylaw. Conditions. Number 1, the plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the planning board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. Number 2, the project must not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public right-of-way. Number 3, any connections or alterations to public utilities would require permission from the appropriate town department. Number 4, construction of this project shall follow the town's, in parentheses, soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions, or quote, and now end quote there. A plan shall be submitted to the DPW Engineering Division in compliance with the town's soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions before any site work is started. And number 5, the applicant shall see the Engineering Division for address assignment for the new building prior to applying for a building permit. Upon completion of construction, the applicant shall post the address for this facility per Section 99-1 affixing of legible numbers required. Time limit for compliance. Number 6, the project shall meet all applicable standards set forth in the building code as determined by the building commissioner. Number 7, pursuant to Section 240-12.2 of the zoning bylaw, this site plan review decision shall lapse 3 years from the date it is granted if substantial use thereof has not sooner commenced except for good cause. And number 8, the contractor shall obtain an approved driveway permit and post any required bond with the engineering division before the start of construction.
Second?
Any discussion?
Thank you.
None? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you. And then next on our agenda is a continuation of a public hearing for Emir Smikowitz to special permit application to modify the October 5th, 2011 special permit from the December 14th, 2016 special permit modification to allow the construction of a second 5,400 square foot, one-story storage building with adjacent roofed open storage area for landscaping and non-agricultural use to be built on 961 Sandwich Road, and to allow the redivision of 955 and 961 Sandwich Road into Lot 2C, 7.35 acres, and Lot 2D, 11.36 acres, with a portion of Lot 2D having width 40 feet. For the applicant?
Good evening. For your record, I'm Bob Ament. I represent the applicant. At the last hearing, there were a couple of open items. One, the chairman asked that the parking spaces be shown on a plan, and the plan submitted dated June 23 showed the 26 designated spaces at 961 Sandwich Road. And in correspondence, I pointed out that there are many other places available for parking, but we actually showed the 26 designated spaces. There were also questions about drainage. There was still some open issues with the engineering division. We have, we think, addressed those, and calculations meeting the town standards have been submitted and reviewed, and plans showing the more drainage details have been submitted. The town planner was kind enough to share with me the draft decision, which I've reviewed. It seems perfectly fine to us. We will be submitting one additional plan, simply putting a note that was put on the drainage plan. He wanted it on the site plan as well, so we'll be doing that probably as early as tomorrow. Any questions?
Any questions? No? Okay, thank you. We do have a draft decision. Tom, please.
Mr. Chair, just as a reminder, it's still a public hearing, so you should
That's right.
take public comment.
Anyone from the public wish to speak on this matter? No? Then close the hearing and
Yeah, if I may, just one more item for the record. Attorney Ahmed missed this, but it's the Marine and Environmental Services. They provided a positive referral. The applicant met with them on the 16th of June, and MES has no issues with the plans as presented.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome. So yes, you can, if there's no other input, close the hearing. And then if you're ready, you can read the motion into the record.
I move that the hearing be closed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Tom?
Okay. Draft dated 7/8/25. Motion, the planning board vote to approve the application of Greener Image Landscaping, Inc. to modify a special permit under sections 240-6.1B, 240-11.2B4, 240-12.1, and 240-14.1 LB5. L5B of the zoning bylaw to allow for the construction of a second 5,400 square foot storage building with an adjacent roofed storage area, gravel parking in the front yard, and to allow the redivision of 955 and 961 Sandwich Road into Lot 2C and Lot 2D, with the portion of Lot 2D having a width of 40 feet as allowed by the December 14th, 2016 special permit decision, with the following findings and conditions. Findings specific to 240-6.1B of the zoning bylaw. The planning board finds that the property located at 955, 961, and 981 Sandwich Road is not located in a water resource protection overlay district, and that both parcels are currently zoned for agricultural use and operating as a commercial nursery. The planning board also finds that, number one, such other uses, non-agricultural, had previously been accessory to the commercial nursery operations. Number two, the existing structures, parking, and storage areas and other physical characteristics of the lots are suitable for the proposed uses. Number three, the lots contain a minimum 5 acres based on assessor information. Number four, the bylaw requires that a front yard setback shall be a minimum of 75 feet, while the side and rear yard setbacks shall be a minimum of 50 feet. However, the board finds the lesser setback of 30 feet for the storage building depicted on the current plan acceptable, as the applicant currently owns Lot 2D, and any future owner of said lot will be on notice of the existence of the commercial nursery. And number five, the planning board finds that the activities, including traffic between the subject premises and Sandwich Road, will not have an adverse impact on the neighborhood, and that the construction, width, and grades of Sandwich Road are sufficient for safe travel to the site by the vehicles to be stored. Vehicles exiting the site will use curb cuts as depicted on detailed plans subject to condition number 1 below. Findings specific to 240-11.2B4 of the zoning bylaw. The planning board finds that the redivision of 955 and 961 Sandwich Road into Lot 2C and Lot 2D, with a portion of Lot 2D having a width of 40 feet is acceptable, considering the topographic characteristics and use of the site. Findings specific to 240-12.1 of the zoning bylaw. The board finds that the information provided by the applicant conforms to all the requirements of section 240-12.1E of the zoning bylaw. Conditions. Number 1, the plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the planning board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. Number 2, the list of equipment, vehicles, and materials storage to be allowed on site shall be as represented on the inventory list dated April 4th, 2025, that was submitted with the special permit application and attached hereto. Number 3, except as modified here, the conditions of approval of the board's decision dated October 4th, 2011, and December 14th, 2016 remain in full force and effect. Number 4, pursuant to section 240-12.1L of the zoning bylaw of this special permit shall lapse 3 years from the date it is granted if a substantial use thereof has not sooner commenced except for good cause shown, or in the case of a permit for construction, if the construction has not begun by the date except for good cause shown.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Bob mentioned that there was something else that was going to be added, another condition, or?
Sorry, I don't remember. Do you have something that wanted to be added?
I appreciate the hearing is closed, but I think that some significant paragraphs of at least the proposed decision I reviewed this afternoon were not read. When they were sent to me, they were in a lighter print, but they don't seem to have been printed in whatever you've read. And they include a number of your customary conditions and important language, such as the planning board determines the application to be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the chapter. In any case, I'd be happy to give you what I have, which there are several paragraphs you didn't read.
So, yeah, just for clarity's sake, the reason they do that, the board wanted to try and create these readings of the draft motion. They wanted to create brevity. So there are certain sections of the decision that we highlight for them to read specifically, but to Attorney Ahmed's point, that section might be worthwhile to read into the record.
What you're saying is that the decision itself will include additional language
Correct.
from what was read.
Correct.
Fine with me.
That's all I was asking.
But we can start from the beginning. Sounds good.
I think it's a point worth making to the people who are here that, as Jed pointed out, these are shortened decisions so that the highlights are brought out. But if you want to see the full decision, you can always see it online or go into the planning office to see it.
Correct. Well said.
Okay.
So is Mr. Ahmed's concerns contained in?
Yeah.
this
Yes,
decision? Okay.
yes it is.
Yeah, the one he brought out was in harmony with.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Bob?
No, that was it.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? So we have a motion, it's been second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you. So the next hearing this evening is a hearing that I'm going to recuse myself from. So, Pat,
Yeah, I'm ready to take over.
okay. Thank you.
The chairman does this when there's a potential conflict of interest, that it could potentially, even in the furthest reaches, be considered a conflict of interest.
Madam Vice Chair, the clerk has the reading of the
So
notice.
please read it.
Okay. So this was published in the newspaper. The date was June 27th, 2025, and 38 abutters were sent notice by regular mail.
Please state your name.
Good evening. For the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors, representing the applicant. The property is located at 428 Carrot Shop Road. The applicant is proposing to develop the existing vacant lot at 428 Carrot Shop Road with a proposed 5-lot planned residential development. The existing lot is shown here on the town GIS, highlighted in green. It's an 8.9 acre lot on the southern side of Carrot Shop that is surrounded mostly by residential properties, except for this property right here. That is a town-owned open space. The existing parcel is located in the Agricultural A zoning district, Wacoit Bay Coastal Pond Overlay District, and the Wildlife Corridor Overlay District. So I'm going to jump over here to proposed plan to go through a few things with you.
Could you speak up, please?
So the proposed plan is before you right now. What we're proposing to do is to construct a new roadway to service 5 lots ranging in size from 21,714 square feet to 63,453 square feet. The lot frontages range from 60 linear feet to 168 linear feet. All 5 lots are greater than the 10,000 square foot minimum and the 50-foot lot frontage minimum for a planned residential development. The length of the road is approximately 775 linear feet long, and we are requesting a waiver to increase the length of the road above the 500-foot length that is typically required by the town. The proposed roadway, drainage, and utilities will be constructed in accordance with the town design standards. We are proposing a sidewalk within this development as well. There was a referral that I received today from the town engineer, and if this project were to move forward to the definitive stages, we would address any concerns that might be in that referral, as well as the other referrals that are online. The applicant is proposing to construct single-family homes on the lot. All the lots will be served by town water, as well as on-site sewage disposal systems. The applicant is also proposing to incorporate denitrification systems into each lot in order to improve the water quality from these new homes. As part of the planned residential development, the applicant is proposing 4.4 acres of open space that basically start at Carrot Shop Road, follow along the eastern property line, and then wraps back around to the western property line to the road layout. This open space does touch the town-owned open space, and we feel it's a benefit because it will increase the contiguous open space that the town currently owns. So that's kind of basically the project in a nutshell. If the board has any questions for myself or the applicant, we'd be more than happy to address them.
Does anybody on the board have any questions or comments at this point? It's brand new in front of us, so.
I have a question. Jed, can you give us an example where we waived the 500-foot thing on a subdivision in the past?
Let's see, recent examples would be the Central Ave subdivision, 187 Central Ave. I believe you waived the 500-foot requirement there.
Wasn't that just like 20 feet?
It was, but still. Beyond that, nothing that's come before you since I've been here. However, in the past, you have done it. Not necessarily maybe this composition of the board, but the planning board said it in the past in several situations. I just can't give you the exact locations off the top of my head. I know Caitlin Hills Drive.
I particularly remember requiring it in lots of them, too. I don't remember, and I've been on the board a long time, and Pat's been on longer than I.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty gray, much grayer than you, even though it doesn't look like it, but.
Is it important that we do this? I mean, it was proposed that it was a life safety issue.
Right.
That if, the street got blocked off and it's so long that you're trapping people there. And I know Timothy Bourne Cartway, we made them put in a roadway. I mean, that's why Drewley's not sitting here, because he had to do it on his lots. There was a street that was put in.
Yeah, there was a loop.
A loop
right.
that was put in, and a gate, and a Knox box, and the fire department, and there's all these requirements that at some time we thought it was important. I'm not arguing it, but when do we change, what's going,
Yeah. Jim, you're right, we have turned things down for this. This is a 225-foot ask, and that's half again the length of our requirement for the roadway. And I don't know, I'd love to have some research done to see whether we've allowed that.
That's really
much
what I'm
before.
asking you. Show us other
It's not
examples.
it's not a de minimis, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Sure. Yeah, I will point out that, the fire department did provide a referral. They didn't have any issue,
have
or
a
didn't
problem?
mention any issue with the length of the roadway. They just looked at the horizontal and vertical clearance for access. I have spoken to the fire department in the past. It doesn't appear to me that the 500 feet is a major issue anymore. They feel confident to be able to get through when they need to. But I can certainly check back with them, just to make you
Yeah, I mean,
more
if
comfortable.
they waived it off, I mean, I thought they were the ones that were requiring it, so,
Yeah.
I mean, that was their issue.
Well, if it's not a major issue anymore, I'd like to know why it's
Yeah.
not. Do they have more powerful squirts or what?
Right. Hoses are longer, trucks can get where they couldn't before, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera.
I'd like to know why.
Dead ends in this town that are longer than 500 feet.
I know, but that's before the bylaw came in.
No,
Yeah.
I know, I know.
Yeah, so I think, I'm glad you brought that up, Jim, because I think we need to have an understanding of how we want to proceed in the future, and we may wish to change the bylaw. We want to allow
Well, I
longer.
think the biggest thing is whether there's a hammerhead or a rotary at the end, you know, a cul-de-sac at the end, some way for emergency vehicles to turn around. That's always seems to be the issue.
No, there's another issue too, though, Bob, that we brought up, and that is if something happened that the residents couldn't get out. If it were blocked up at the entrance, and let's say we had a wildfire in there, which happens.
It seems it would be analogous to the exits from any residence. You have two ways to get out. I would suppose that would be the original thinking. I didn't think it was a fire department thing. But I'd be interested to know, is there any other way to fit 5 houses on this narrow lot?
We did do, so some thought process definitely went into this in regard to the length of the road, the size of the lots, the open space. So what we were trying to do is create smaller lots with smaller houses versus these giant lots with the mega houses. Because the applicant and myself believe that this town is definitely in need of for sale homes, smaller houses. So that's kind of where the thought process went in. I've been working in Falmouth previously at Homes in McGrath. I was partners with Mike McGrath for many years, so I've done a lot of subdivisions in this town, and I believe back in the day, it really was the fire department thing, and the number of hydrants. You know, this subdivision, we would be putting a hydrant at the end, and we're probably gonna end up with a hydrant in the middle because of the length between hydrants, so this is gonna be a full radius paved turnaround so the fire trucks can get around, emergency vehicles can get around, DPW trucks can plow, curbside pickup. So it'll be a full paved radius in accordance with the town standards. So that was our thought process, smaller lots, smaller houses for the
Are you
need of
thinking
this
that will bring
town.
the price down on the houses and make them?
Well, I mean, if you're selling a lot that's 2 acres, you're more than likely gonna be building a house that's 6,000 square feet.
Yeah.
If you're selling a lot that's 20,000 square feet, you're probably building a house that's, say, 2,800 square feet. And again, I'm not the applicant, so you'd have to talk with him to see what he's specifically building, but that was kind of the thought process that we started with this proposal that's before you tonight. Just to give you a little background on where it came from.
Anybody else on the board? Yep.
Yeah, I just have not a concern, a question. This is a 5-lot subdivision. The first 4 lots are 21,000 square feet. The 4th lot is encroached by the cul-de-sac. I'm curious why you didn't make all 4 of those identical and put the cul-de-sac on the last lot, which is 3 times bigger.
More value. Less street. Costs money to put a street in.
Is there a reason for
That's a
that?
financial.
It's just the way that the applicant was
Excuse me?
looking to develop the parcel.
It's a lot cheaper to have a shorter street.
I mean, part of the.
I'm asking the question to the applicant. Would
Okay.
you please not interrupt?
Part of
Thank
the
you.
planned residential development is you can only have so many lots than an open space. So we had the open space, 3 lots, then we got an open space parcel, then the next 2 lots came together. With that 4th and 5th lot on the cul-de-sac, you're gonna have narrow entrances, so you have that little, I'll call it a gooseneck for lack of better terms. You have that little hockey stick that gets you out to the bigger open space. You know, could that 60,000 square foot lot be smaller? Yes, I can't stand here and say no, but that's what the applicant was looking for.
The other question is, do you have access to the open space at the end of the lot?
So the open space will be donated to the town. That's the applicant's goal.
I don't see access on the drawing, that's all.
I have a question. I thought in our cluster zoning, when we did this, that the open space, and I've done a lot of these, that the open space was owned by everybody in the neighborhood, and that's why there was really the right size. This is like new zoning. You know, giving it to the town takes away, all the other ones that I've been involved in, the open, and I see them all over town, the open space is collectively owned by everybody in the neighborhood.
Right, the homeowners association.
Homeowners association.
Right, right.
I mean, I love what they're trying to do and make smaller lots and everything, but it sounds like it's a new zoning article. And this is a cluster development, right?
It is, yes. This is your planned residential development. I don't recall if there's an option to donate it to the town. That's something that we'll have to work out with the applicant. But the default setting typically is, as you're describing, is that the homeowners association maintains ownership of the open space and maintenance responsibilities, whatever that might include.
Charlotte, it appears to be a very clever use of that zoning. It doesn't seem to contradict anything that's said in the zoning. And yet the homeowners don't have access, under your thinking, to the open space, which was the whole point of having this kind of a thing. And it appears to be a way to get as many houses as possible on a narrow lot and then not pay taxes on the rest of the lot. I call that clever.
Yeah, I think that the representation was the fact that there's open space currently owned by the town that's contiguous to this site, and so the thinking was that it would be a nice donation to the town. Whether or not that can actually happen is a whole nother question. So at current, what's before you is whether or not it's meeting the spirit of the planned residential development bylaw, which, in my opinion, it is.
Paul, you have,
Could I just
My
say?
question isn't who owns it or what it is. My question is there access to the open space at the end of the lot? That's what I was asking. Not who owns it or anything like that. I understand.
Access as far as like public access? I'm just trying to understand what specific access you're
Whoever's
asking.
using it, is it going to be open to the public? Is it just for?
Well,
the
if it's donated to the town, it's however the town would be using it.
Okay.
If it was not donated to the town, it would remain open space as part of the homeowners association.
Would those homeowners have access
Everybody would.
Yes.
down those narrow corridors?
I believe they're 40 feet wide, 20 feet wide. I'm sorry, I can't see what it says. Down this corridor here and this corridor here. It would be a walking
I
path.
just want to say, I'm not against this. This is just, I've sat in meeting after meeting, we've turned people down and made them do it a different way. And I've looked at all kinds of land in the past and said, well, you can't have anything more than a 500 street. It won't get by the planning board. You've got to do these things. I thought those were rules. This could be great. We could build more land. I really like the idea. I don't want to be against it. But is this really just an interpretation? I'd like you to.
No, so you, in your subdivision regulations, you have the ability for an applicant to request a waiver of any of your regulation rules.
So it's really
up to
just a policy that we had.
Right, it's up to the board to determine whether or not you want to grant those waivers. So the applicant can ask for them. It's up to you to decide whether or not you want to grant them.
Okay, I don't mean to come across as against this, but I just have sat in meeting after meeting and looked at, I know John Drewley probably wished he could have done, what is it, the path in,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I looked at Timothy Bourne Cartway, and the construction of a gate, and the fire department, and a knockbox, and we made people jump through hoops that we're just not doing anymore. I'm okay with it. I just want to understand, that's what we're doing as a board collectively? We no longer need to do that, but we did it for a long time.
So, yeah, and I would, the guidance I would say is to rely on the referrals from town departments. If they indicate that they don't have a problem with the length of the roadway, then, you know, those are the working professionals that will end up serving that roadway.
And I'll make one more comment. Over my years here, I've seen that professional opinion change depending on who's sitting in those positions quite a
course.
bit.
Of course.
And I'm okay with it. But I just don't want to I want to explain what my thoughts were on it. And not everybody remembers it, but.
Well, I have just a comment, because on this is essentially flat property. And if a fire truck had to get someplace, they'd just go through. they don't have a cliff that they have to jump off of or something like that. This is just flat and they can go where they need to go, if they have to. But it still doesn't, if the residents are blocked in here by, say, a wildfire up here in the open space, which we're becoming more and more aware of with the drought conditions all over the place, it could be a problem. I'm just throwing something else that we have to think about. It may be that the fire department has no problem because, yeah, they can turn around there just fine.
Oh,
So-
and any others that have come before us, those applicants had the opportunity to ask for waivers as well.
They did.
And if they did and we turned it down, there had to be some reason why we turned it down.
Charlotte?
I think we should be thinking about the large number of narrow lots that are very, very deep in town, and that this is indeed a very clever way to get more houses on a narrow lot. And it's likely to be setting a pattern. So Jim's comment, this is like new zoning, I agree with that. It is like new zoning. It's the zoning that we want.
It sounds like we have the ability to do it. I didn't realize it was discretionary. I thought, I remember it being a pretty firm rule.
It's a rule unless we waive it,
Well, then we
which is
can.
different from being discretionary.
You can waive it.
So our choice is, do we wish to waive it or not?
Okay, I'm going to stop opposing it. I like the idea. I just was bringing it up because I thought I had to do it. This is my memory. I didn't want to just ignore all these other decisions we made.
We should think about it. We've been talking about adding density to the town, how to add density, and one way is to say, on all these narrow lots that are deep, just make a long road, ask for a waiver, and pack in a lot of houses. Density. Is this the way you want to do it? Because that's what you're looking at right there.
I think you have to weigh that, Charlotte, though, with safety, too. The topography
Absolutely.
might
This is
be amenable
long
here.
egress, it's very long.
I mean, just some thought too, that if the road was 500 and there was no open space here, and that rear lot went all the way back, you know, the applicant could build a house way back there and have a 300-foot driveway. So, I mean, that's some of the thought process that went into this. I mean, I could just keep listing these little things off, but I don't want to waste your time. It wasn't, we didn't just say, hey, we're trying to beat this. It's within the reg, it says 500 linear feet, or if the board feels it's a benefit to the town, they can waive it. So that's why I'm asking. Our thought process was smaller lots, smaller houses, that's a benefit to the town. Open space, that's a benefit to the town. So that's why we're here tonight.
Charlotte?
It's true, it is a benefit to the town. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm saying it's a new way to use land that we hadn't looked at before, because the original thinking in creating these planned residential developments was really to create a great deal of open space around clustered housing, so that the housing takes up less of it, so that everybody gets appreciation of the openness, the view, the recreational use of the land, just the beauty of it. The beauty is way at the back. It's great to have open land, but it's hidden open land. So it's a completely different use of planned residential development than what was anticipated. Doesn't make it wrong, it's just different, and I think that we should think about the difference, and do we want to set this pattern?
Or do we want to keep the cluster aspect so that you could have a roadway that circles around too, which you could do if you clustered it?
Well, this is a cluster, though.
Yeah.
This meets the cluster. I believe this
We can
plan
get
unit
them
development.
closer together, though. You don't have to look at the
It's
square
really just,
footage.
I'm going to be quiet. I'm okay with it. I just had a different memory of the way we did things, and it looks like people have made the decision to do it another way, and I'm okay with it.
Oh, just,
I'm
Charlotte?
assuming these people have come because they wish to comment
Oh, I
on
know
it?
they do.
Oh.
When we're finished,
Yeah, okay.
if we're finished,
No, I think,
Before you open up to public, just can the applicant say something? Seeing that
sure.
that's part of our
okay.
presentation.
But Bob, you have something else you want to say?
just that, I think as long as we have the boards or the entities that are involved in
Fire
these,
department,
like
yeah.
fire department and engineering, I'm willing to go with them. I mean, we seek professional input on these, and I don't want to be an engineer, and I don't want to be a fireman, so. I
I
think
know
that-
what you're saying, I'm not arguing.
Yeah, oh, I know. So,
We were elected to exercise our discretion over these things. That's what we're here for.
yeah.
Not to say, oh, no, the engineer said it. Well, too bad.
Okay, I'd like to have the applicant talk to us, please. And then we'll go to the public and your comments and questions.
Good evening, João Junqueira. I have been working this now for over a year, and we had a lot of thoughts, how different things, talked to some of the neighbors. And we start thinking, when I purchased the property, we had a plan for 3 lots. That's how I purposed. It was a first plan done by the seller with the 3 lots, and the lots was almost 3 acres each, so 2.5 acres. So I came and sat with the board, a couple of people in here, and I talked to them, and Tim and I had a discussion. We had a couple of different ideas to do a 40B and all those things, and I totally kind of walk away from that because then was an idea to make this the donation, like you said. The donation was the first lot to be a open space, and the last part of the partial to be an open space. Doesn't really matter to me if it's town-owned or it's the neighborhood on, just to make things better. So when I look at this when I read everything by right, with a 500 linear feet road, I can put 3 lots in there, and there'll be 2+ acres. So when we had this idea to create more lots, financially, like what Mr. Fox said, doesn't really make a lot of sense as a developer like because I'm donating land to the neighborhood or putting more roads, and creating 1 more lot. It's a balance. It doesn't really make a big difference because the road costs a lot of money. Utilities cost a lot of money. So I'm getting 1 lot, and then was a point to me to say, just do a small lots because that's what Falmouth need to. So I said, I live in Oakwood. I said, I'm going to keep a bigger lot for my family, and I can build a less lot for my family, and then we build houses smaller houses to make sure everybody is happy. Because it's when you have a lot for 2.5 acres or 2 acres, it's very expensive, and then you got to build a big house to support that. So, and that's what the whole thought, pretty much. And I got an email from Jose Costa, a neighbor there, to say it was a great idea. I don't know any other the neighbors. I talked to somebody early he called my office and asked me, and I called back, and I said, I really don't know yet. So a couple of months and a half ago, 2 months, we decided we'd set some people in this room, and it was those ideas to create a smaller lot to supply more smaller houses for people, and that's what we thought about. And thank you for your
Did I understand you to say you are going to build your family house on the 2-acre lot?
Yes.
So you would plan to live there, too?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now, I'm going to call on the public. If you have any comments or questions, please go up to the podium and state your name so that we all know who you are.
Hello, my name is Bob Baker. I live at 40 Crosswinds Way. I don't know how to use any of this stuff, but I'm one of these lots. I'm this lot right
Okay.
where the cul-de-sac is.
Yeah.
That's me. All right, and I received the letter dated 6/27. I went and got a plot plan, which I will admit is challenging to read. The print is rather small, but it did raise a lot of questions. I did have some questions on the lot size, and then it was explained to me that the lot size was sort of okayed because of the open space toward the back. I question whether there are any restrictions on the open space. You know, can they put in a playground? Can it become boat storage? What can open space be? As far as the donation is concerned, the town I came from, we always turned them down because pretty much, to me, it's useless land for the town, and it just comes off the tax roll. So I don't understand what the advantage of donating the land to the town. I think I can understand the plan and the people who buy whatever houses there are here own that land. I can understand that. But I don't see any advantage. It's an advantage to the owner. I don't see any advantage to the town you know, it just comes off the tax rule. The size of the houses was mentioned, 2,800 square feet. Do you have any say in that, or is that just what somebody says here, and then they can do whatever they want? I mean, I don't know how this all works. I've testified in many hearings over my lifetime. This is the first one in the planning board. But
No, we can't control the size of the house except by the sideline dimensions.
Lot coverage ratio.
Lot coverage.
I got it,
yeah.
okay, so
Rules
that
in
has some,
place.
that has
Setback
some
to lot
restriction.
coverage.
Okay.
They're already in place.
Okay. There's no rendering of any pictures of the type of houses. That doesn't come at all?
On our job.
Okay, all right. The land all shows circles. Is that where the house has to be, or is that just
No,
a?
it shows that a house can be put on that lot.
Okay, all right. I have a question on the space.
Question on the 75. Is that, normally it's 100-foot for a lot, but for a cluster, it's 75?
Correct.
So that meets the bylaw. So it's a requirement to show that there's a 75-foot circle. If
Okay.
it wasn't a cluster, they'd have to show a 100-foot circle.
Okay.
So it's something we see all the time.
Okay. I was curious about the space, I can't really read this that well, the space between the road and the property line of all of us that live on Crosswinds Way. How much space is there between the road and our property line?
I believe he said it was 20 feet.
Okay, well, then I have a question, because at the back of my land, I have a 50-foot wildlife corridor, which limits what I can do with that whole piece of land. And that abuts this. So I'm wondering, why do I have, wouldn't they have a wildlife corridor on the other side of them? I mean, if my land's here, and here's the wildlife, wouldn't that be one? I don't understand why I would have one, and this other land right next to me wouldn't have one. That doesn't show up here, and that would impact where the road goes. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the wildlife corridor is, but I was told many years ago that I have some restrictions, like I couldn't build on it, or if I wanted to put in a fence, for example, I couldn't put in a stockade fence. Like if I hate this development, I can't put in a stockade fence because I have a wildlife corridor. I can put in a post and rail because then animals can get, through it and over it, but I can't put in a stockade. So I have restrictions on this land. So I'm wondering why I have this wildlife corridor and the abutting land would not have that wildlife corridor.
Ed should answer that.
Yeah, I know. Jed, do you know the answer to that?
So the answer is because this is a preliminary plan stage, the consultation with the Marine and Environmental Services has not occurred yet. That will occur during the definitive plan. So think of this as your draft paper.
Okay.
And the final draft, they'll have to go before, or they'll have to consult with MES on that wildlife corridor.
Okay. I did see something about underground utilities. Was I right on that? I didn't see the word gas in there. Is that not in there? I mean, I thought it's,
We should ask the applicant on the utilities.
well, I just know that I bought land with underground utilities only to discover 2/3 through the building that there was no gas. And then I had to pay for a gas line to come 1,000 feet.
And again, all of the utility information will come forward in the definitive plan stage. Think of this stage as more of, is the plan as proposed acceptable to the board so that the applicant knows they should pursue the next stage?
Okay. I did have a question, but I think it was answered tonight. All of these houses will have denitrification systems? I have one also. All right.
Good job.
I did find the cul-de-sac turnaround and access kind of interesting because the street I live on is a cul-de-sac, and we have no way out, and that was approved by a planning board in 2004. And, you go in, any cul-de-sac is a dead end. So isn't it? I mean, because you were talking about, access out, but there is no other access out. I will tell you, it's pretty good size, but the trash trucks invariably drive on lawn. I mean, there's a big circle there, which I know. But the trash trucks or they have to go and then back up and then come, or they go on the lawn. It's not easy for them to do it, so I don't know what a fire engine would do. Although I have had a fire engine at my house once or twice, but I never saw how they came around the circle. But anyway, so that was, I guess that pretty much are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you wish to answer some of his questions that he brought up?
Can you bring up the GIS map and show the neighborhood lot? Sounds like he's got, because he's talking about a budding lot. Sounds like there might be an example of where we let a.
Right next door.
Right next door.
Yep.
That's what I
measured
wanted.
There.
He was describing that we did this, I wasn't on the board in 2004.
Right.
So I believe this is Mr. Baker's lot, right?
And how long is that? Yeah, that's way more than 500 feet.
Yeah, I measured it, it's approximately 850.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
I knew, I was on the board
You've got
then.
plenty of
I
examples.
knew we had some,
Well,
I
I
just didn't
just
know how
wondered
many.
why we stopped doing it, and we did it for a while, and it probably related to an individual that had a decision on it. It wasn't me, and I just followed it. Now there's an example right next door, we've given a waiver.
Yeah.
That's what I thought I was hearing.
Do you want me to leave this one up, or do you want the other one?
No, I just thought I heard a waiver there, and I did.
We live on a 2,000-foot road, it's dead end. There've been a few problems now and then, but they are all over the place.
Yeah, and cul-de-sacs have been a standard diameter, and
Or hammerheads.
the trash trucks always have a tough time.
I'm all in favor of it. I just, for 10 years, we didn't do it. I just,
Yep.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir.
I'm Ron Purdy. I own Communicus Madness. We rent to the Funny Farm that owns virtually all the property that abuts this one, except on this side, on the east side, I guess. We have horses, pigs, and chickens right on that property line, that's been existing permitted by the town years ago.
Where's his property?
The Board of Health, in their permitting for the stables and the paddocks, require 50 feet from our paddocks, our line. Our paddocks are up to the line, so it would be from our line to any buildings that are going to be built. This looks, under the code, section 240-127A, they require no less than 25 feet from the perimeter of the entire lot to the property line, or from the perimeter of the entire property to the back of the plot for the house. So what I would require and request would be that the board, the board has a discretion to increase that to whatever it wants, I guess. But I'm requesting that it be increased to 50 feet from 25 to comply with the Board of Health rulings on the stables that are existing. The other thing is, we would want, for sure, some kind of fencing, substantial fencing, to keep any kids or anybody else off our property, because horses are big and they move fast. And you don't want kids to be able to get on the property. Having said that, this is also a wildlife habitat as defined on the town maps. The entire property is, except the part up by the houses, up by the road, is listed as unrestricted. The rest of the entire property is shown as a migration area. I looked at this property when we bought ours, and at that time, there was a whole bunch of wildlife corridors across this property. I can't prove it, I can't find it, and I don't know where it disappeared off the town maps. I have no idea. I can't find the wildlife corridors themselves. I don't know if they've been voted out in the last 20 years or what. I have no idea. At any rate, the point is, because of the wildlife migration area, it does require that the Department of Natural Resources be advised of this project, and they need to approve it. There's a 35-day approval period for them. And any open space, if there's an open space that is defined in the project, as I understand Section C of 24993A, it does require that there be a permanent conservation easement or restriction on that property. I don't know what happens when you give it to the town, and I don't know if this plan is going to require them to give it to the town or what. The houses are pretty dense on this small piece of property. As a resident of the town of Falmouth, I've been here a long time. I graduated from Lawrence High School, so I've been here for Lawrence High School. I remember when all of these zoning laws were put in place. I remember when the Cape Cod Commission was put in place, and all of that was done. These zoning areas were done to try and reduce the growth of the town, because they knew back then that our resources are extremely limited, and they didn't want a sign up on Falmouth saying, you know, with permanent water restrictions now, right? The one on 28 is because we can't supply enough water. We're putting sewer system with outfall off of Knobska Point because we didn't deal with the sewer, and the traffic is crazy in Falmouth. So putting this kind of density on a wild acre lot, as a citizen of Falmouth, I'm concerned. Other than that, oh yeah, he talked about putting fencing all the way up. That's kind of a double-edged sword here, because the wild acre area should be left pretty much open because of the wildlife, so they can move. We do have electric fences up for our horses, but the deer routinely come onto our property. So, in fact, we noticed there was a deer grazing next to our cows on the other property the other day with the same kind of fencing. So I know we're not interfering with the wildlife. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Melissa Purdy, I run the Funny Farm, own it. I just want to point out, we're not just like a couple horses. We have 12 horses there right now and 2 cattle, one of them's pregnant. And I don't know how to word this either, but my cow barn sits right about there, and she is loud. My arena's right about here, and it's dusty. All of the paddocks blow dust that direction, and I'm concerned about the people that move into those houses complaining about the horses that have already been here. And again, we have pigs, and we try to be respectful, but they're pigs, and they do make noise, and they can get smelly. And my cow is loud, and the horses who have been there. And the way we have it set up, all of our stables are on this property line here, near that property line, and then the paddocks run right behind it on the line. So I just want to make sure that it's brought to attention that it's a potential problem for the people that are going to be buying those houses.
Do you have chickens as well with roosters?
Yes, we have at least 4 roosters
Crack
on the
of
property
dawn.
right now. What's that?
Crack of dawn.
Yes, they start early. And my cow with her little barn right there, I can hear it from my house up on the road. So it's gonna be loud for those houses right there.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to comment?
I brought copies of this for you guys.
Thank you.
If you could, pass them around. That's one thing, because there are a few
Thanks.
topics I wanted to mention. So, I'm Amy Vickers. I'm on the Agricultural Commission for the town of Falmouth. I'm not here representing the town of Falmouth. I'm actually in a butter. So, my property is here, this one right here. And I can attest that I hear her animals from here, which I love. I absolutely love hearing the animals, but they are very loud.
Which one is yours?
I'm way over here.
Ah.
So like, she's way over there, and I'm way over here, and I hear the animals. So, it's loud. That's number one. But also, actually, before I leave the map, the 2 properties, neither of those people could be here. So, as you turn on the Crosswinds Way, on the left, the first one and the second one, those both have horse stables. Those both, I think the first one had up to 6 horses, the second one had 2 horses. So that's 8 horses. And to make sure that that stable is grandfathered in for anything that someone is gonna buy a house and complain about, like the beach plum path situation. Like, that, I could list, because we see that with the Agricultural Commission where it comes before us and people getting upset that they've moved into a property that is an agricultural.
Oh, Jim is pointing out, by the microphone, because it's being broadcast, so those who are watching us tonight can't hear you.
Everyone will miss your description.
So making sure that everybody gets grandfathered in on both sides, because that's, how many horses do you have?
We have 12 right now.
12, so then 8 on the other side, so that's a lot of horses. That's 20 horses. That those situations need to be grandfathered in, so the responsibility is not put on those owners to have to jump through hoops when a development in the middle says you're too loud, you're too smelly, you're too everything. Because if I'm hearing them way over here, there's not a lot of people that will move into that situation and want to be in the middle of that. I mean, there are some, but, making sure that waivers are signed, making sure that you guys don't become, you're getting calls every day. The Department of Health is getting calls every day, because that's cumbersome on the town. That's not something that anybody wants to deal with, but making sure that everybody is protected in that scenario. So that was the one thing. And those are the measurements with the Board of Health. So those would all have to be waived. Those would all have to be addressed for every single stable and every single situation. So that was my number one topic. My second one is, so when Crosswinds Way, when the permission was put in for that, those last 2 lots right there, I believe it was in February 2004, February 4th, 2004. Those last 2 lots where those houses were built were denied. That was supposed to be open space. 6 months later, those houses are permission for those houses is granted. And so I pulled up the paperwork on the town records that show that. That's my concern with the open space, is in 6 months, is something gonna change that's gonna say, oh, well, this is no longer open space, here's 2 more houses. So making sure that that is a conservation easement, because he was right as far as like how that has to be done for open space that is donated in perpetuity, an actual conservation easement, not just a open space, because there's a lot of those in town that have definitely been developed over time, because I come across them all the time. So that was point 2. The third one is, and if you're looking at the map, let's see, so the triangle parcel right there. So there are 2 barn owl nests that have been there for over 10 years. At the back of the green parcel, where the open space is, which I think is fabulous, I love open space, there's actually a great horned owl nest in one of the large white ponds. It's also been there for about 10 years. But through my property, through the golf course where the ponds are, there's actually a little pond back up in here. That is the corridor to the other pond where all of the turtles go. So I saw one this morning, I saw one yesterday, I saw one 3 days ago. That is their path. So that's why those wildlife corridors are there. So putting up a stockade fence that doesn't allow access for all of those turtles and all the bullfrogs and all of the endangered salamanders, that's a problem. I mean, I like that part. I like the wild. I like to not cut that off, because if we divert them to the road, they're just going to get smashed. And that's just not very nice. So trying to come up with something that everybody can live with, that everybody that can work with, that's not, cut and dry. It's definitely lots of moving parts. But they were here longer than we've been here, so I think that really deserves some consideration. Any questions?
Anybody?
So that was a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Tim?
Again, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers for the record. There's this fence thing that keeps coming up. We're not proposing any fence. So I'm not sure where that came from. I don't believe I said there was a proposed fence.
No, it was one of the abutters who said if he didn't want to see the new development, he couldn't put up a fence.
Okay.
That's where it came from.
I just want to make sure that we're not proposing any fence.
Yeah, well, it came out in his discussion that he would like to have a substantial fence put there so that no child got trampled by a horse.
I did hear that.
Okay.
I'm just saying, we're not,
You're not proposing a
currently,
fence.
there is no fence being proposed on this plan.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else? Any comments? Okay, so, since this is just a preliminary subdivision plan, we have no action right now. Is there a time that you want to?
So you can request that we put together a motion for you. Sounds, well, you have a member with a question, so.
I
Okay.
don't think we're ready for a motion.
No, I don't think we are either.
We're not even close.
It's only a preliminary plan, so
Right.
they come back with the definitive, let's start over again when we do the definitive plan.
Right.
This
I
is-
rather thought this was
not
just a,
approval. This is,
how do you do, here's who we
Here's what we're
are,
doing,
this
what do
is
you
what we're
think?
thinking about doing
No,
tonight.
It's like a
and-
slippery slope.
Yeah, and nothing,
Think of it more as recommendations for the applicant moving forward. So you issue a decision that says, we approve this preliminary plan as presented, however, here are some recommendations for when you file your definitive plan. Some of those might be, consider a shorter roadway, if you're concerned about the length of the roadway. Consult with Marine and Environmental Services, because we heard a lot about wildlife corridors, those types of things.
yeah, no, I don't think we're ready for any kind of a decision like that, Jed.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I want to see some of that information.
Yeah, I want to see some of the information, I want to be able to discuss it in greater fullness with the board to,
So again, it's just the preliminary stage.
I know.
So all you're doing is just giving the applicant sort of the ability to move forward with a definitive plan application, which will essentially mirror what's being presented here, unless you have concerns about what is being presented. At that point, you get into the
bless you.
you get into the fine-grained details about the utilities, about the wildlife, about any of the regulations and whether or not they meet them or don't meet them. So you get into that at the next stage.
Jim?
I'd like you to bring up what we are required in the wildlife corridors. I know it doesn't always apply to small little developments, or, I mean, but that term was tossed around, a lot of testimony, but I'd like to know what the actual requirements are for it, what the town says, not just what someone's opinion is on it.
So, yeah, so as part of the definitive plan application, as soon as that's filed with the planning board and filed with the planning department, we issue the plan set to the Marine Environmental Services Division, which is formally known as the Department of Natural Resources. They have, just like the fire department, they have an opportunity to comment and provide a referral. What we would recommend as part of this motion for the preliminary stage is that the applicant meet with environmental services before they even file the definitive plan, so that they get a sense for what they're looking for and it meets their requirements before they even submit.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Charlotte?
The way this is organized now for permitting this kind of a project, any project, has been so turned into a series of special hearings by special boards who have a narrow responsibility, so that the opportunity to look at it as a whole, to consider a question of whether or not the land can actually take this kind of a burden across the whole town, never quite comes up, and it really should. And it seems that the only board that might potentially have that responsibility would be the planning board. And to think about that, when the town was originally zoned, residential, agricultural, and so forth, there was a lot of thinking that went into that, and preserving the agricultural nature of a good deal of the land dealt with protecting the burden on the whole land. Here we're seeing a new use of agricultural land to add greater density than probably was ever anticipated. And there's an example of it beside it, around it, but the one that's being proposed now is much more dense than any of those that are around it. So I think that we ought to step back and really have a conversation about, if this is an agricultural zone, was this foreseen? Should that be thought about? And I think that it should. And do we really want to see this pattern of a way to use a narrow strip of land to get the economic benefit of 4 or 5 houses, and then have the owner have the open land behind him? I think it's allowable. I see no way to prevent it under the restrictions of our specialized zoning, but I think we ought to look at it for what it is and think about it.
I'd like to have the planning board have a more fulsome discussion before we ever got to the point of asking our staff to put something together for a recommendation that then would go to the final plan.
I think
There are a lot of
very
things that were
serious
brought up
issues.
tonight that we haven't thought about, we didn't know about, that I would like to have a greater discussion about as a board before we ever put a blessing on something with, oh, you gotta look at this, you gotta look at that.
Right.
Because I don't think it's ethical for us to have this many questions, including those that were brought up tonight by the residents in the area, to say, oh, go ahead and we'll work it out somehow. That's a lot of expenditure that's put into a final plan. And I don't think it's ethical for us to do that kind of thing. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
2 questions. If the land is, the open spaces to be given to the town, does that have to be voted in at town meeting?
Yes.
It has
Yes.
to be accepted.
Yes.
Yes.
Town meeting
Town meeting would
would
have to accept
vote
it.
to accept that land?
Yes.
All right. My second question is, as an abutter, I got the letter. What happens next? Your next meeting about this, do I get another letter?
No.
Do I have to keep track of
Yes.
what's on the agenda of all your meetings?
Well, so
I'll do
tonight,
that. I just want to know what I need to do.
sure, so tonight, the planning board will, it sounds like, continue the matter to a date certain. They'll give you the date of when the applicant is set to appear again.
Okay,
So your notice is being here tonight.
okay. Thank you.
Just one more thing. On the plan, there is a fairly vague. There's an area here defined as a drainage area off the cul-de-sac. And it's unclear what that's draining. Is it just a cul-de-sac, or is that gonna be the draining for, where the water for the cul-de-sac and that road gets drained to? And the reason I'm asking that is, I know that's a fairly low area, so if there's a lot of water put to that area, it's gonna come onto my land. Because of the terrain, the way the terrain is in that area. So if we could just also, on your list of things to look at, if you could look at that drainage area and find out the extent of what's going to be drained and how much water and under what conditions, that kind of thing.
That's always a requirement in our decision, that there be no runoff onto surrounding properties.
Okay. Like, I just know that's a really low area there that,
It used to be the 100-year storm, is it still?
Really, really heavy
Okay.
rain.
It's actually 25-year.
25-year, okay, so any rain that occurs that's a 25-year storm has to be capable of being received by that drainage basin with nothing going on to any surrounding properties.
Okay, so there'll be a requirement of some kind of crushed stone or a trench or?
It's within the plans for building it.
Okay, so it's not included in this, I wasn't
No,
sure.
this is a preliminary, so
Okay,
it
thank you.
wouldn't have gotten into that detail, and this is also what we're discussing now, is that a lot of this is really new territory for us to be considering.
Madam Chair, if I may, just a point of clarification. So, as you'll notice in the staff report from the engineering division, this project is likely going to be disturbing more than an acre of land. So that means it's a stormwater management permit. So I'm incorrect. Our regulations for subdivisions is a 25-year storm, but because in this situation, they're required to get that management permit, you'll be looking at more of a 100-year storm.
Okay, so
there'll
that's
be
even more.
stringent regulations for that.
Okay. Okay.
And if I may, one more item. So your regulations say within 45 days of submittal of the application, the board has to essentially issue a decision and notify the clerk of the decision. 45 days, if you look on the agenda, is July 21st. So just at a minimum, we'll be asking the applicant for an extension because your next meeting is July 22nd. But if I may, just make a recommendation that because the wildlife corridor is so sensitive and so predominant in that area, that you may want to consider continuing, if the applicant's willing, to the 22nd. And in the meantime, asking them to consult with Marine Environmental Services and
Fine.
see whether or not that wildlife corridor is going to prevent or create issues with developing the subdivision plan. Because to your point, it is an expensive endeavor, so it would be best to figure out what the issues are beforehand.
I think we need to have both things. I think their ears were wide open tonight as to the comments made by the abutters and the questions asked by the planning board. So I think they were listening quite intently. And I would pay heed to these things that were brought up. And yes, I see absolutely no reason not to consult with other entities at this point.
Yeah, just particularly the wildlife corridors, simply
Yes.
because of the fact that it does cover the entire site, so.
And then we would need an extension because our alternative is turning it down. So we need
Aren't
an
there
extension.
questions also about the agricultural rules?
Yeah, well, that's all part of what they hopefully were listening to, the setbacks, the
So they
agricultural
should be consulting with
requirements.
them also.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain, although I will consult with others on this fact, that, you know, Falmouth is a right-to-farm community. So I don't think, although I'm not an expert in it, but I don't think there's any standing for future residents coming in and claiming that there's an issue related to farming and animal, raising of animals. Because we've declared, the town has declared, that it is a right-to-farm community, and therefore they're protected already. But I can confirm all that for the next meeting.
Yeah, that's why we need a next meeting, and it's why we need an extension given to us for time.
It's not a problem.
Great.
One more comment. I believe there's 100 parcels like this in town.
On agricultural land?
Oh, no, all over,
All over,
everywhere.
but they are all distinctive.
They all haven't been developed in the past since we put in the 500 feet. and we're gonna change that.
Well, we may or we may
I'm just
not.
pointing it out, there's a ton of them.
And they may all have their.
I think it's a great
distinct-
idea. I think Charlotte's right, it's very creative. I'd like to see it happen.
No, I said it was clever. Clever is a notch down.
Clever idea. And we need the housing too. I mean, that's really, we're now putting,
We're not advocating right now, Jim. Paul?
Yeah, I'm not suggesting it, but I would like to go out and look at this site. I'm not suggesting a site visit, but I would like to go out and look at the site before the next
Where it is.
meeting.
Yeah.
And if you could print out that thing, it'll be easier to find it because the
Yeah.
locus is not very.
It's not very good.
Hate to bring it up.
Great, thank you. So, we need from the applicant an extension, and we need a date certain to bring it up.
July 22nd is your next meeting date.
Okay? Do you
So
want to
we
bring
need
it
to
up on the 22nd to discuss?
Yeah.
We need to extend the deadline then.
Correct.
Right, we do. Because otherwise, we just turn it down. We'd have to,
Well, so you have the option of turning it down tonight.
tonight, I know,
However, if you don't take action, it could be constructively
constructive
approved.
approval.
Which, again, all that does is shorten the window of time for the applicant, for the board to weigh in on the definitive plan. Because when they file a preliminary and a definitive, there's a consolidated timeline. I won't get into the details, but that's the implication.
So may we have your approval tonight for an
Yeah,
extension
I'll
on time?
request a continuance, and I'll sign the extension. We don't have an issue with that. But, you know, you're giving us 2 weeks to meet with the Department of Natural Resources, and you might see another continuance request if they
Fine.
can't meet with us. I just don't want anybody to
No,
think that we're
that's
just
true, yeah.
trying to push things out, because clearly we want to be able to answer all the abutters' concerns.
Yes.
And have the board get that warm and fuzzy feeling so we can move on to the
And it's
next
also
stage.
summer, and we know what happens during summer.
I'm well aware of that.
I mean, you can continue, if the applicant wants, you can continue them to the 12th of August, too. It's,
I'm away for 2 weeks, and that's one of the weeks, so.
well, it sounds like you're not going to be anymore.
So I'll go with the 22nd, and hopefully, I
And if
apologize.
we need to continue it longer, we'll not do it during your vacation time. Okay, I really thank all of you for your responsiveness tonight and your thoughtfulness and your comments. Thank you for coming.
Okay.
Jed, are you going to email me the?
I will,
All right,
yep.
perfect. I didn't know if you had it, that's all.
I'll be in touch.
Thank you for your time.
Can you print out that, George? Can you print out that latest map? Pick up tomorrow?
A little vacation.
'Cause I couldn't find it.
All done for tonight.
Well, we appreciate your coming and being as involved as you are.
right there.
What?
Same street.
Oh, right.
It goes all the way from 28 all the way up to Fresh Pond. I've walked it.
You shouldn't approve this.
What was that? You were listening, I assume.
Some of it, yes, thank
Yeah.
you, Pat.
Literally.
We still have a meeting going on, please.
Look what that would do.
Get outside.
Same thing the accessory apartments is already doing though.
All right, thank you, Pat.
You're quite welcome, John.
Yeah.
Also, I want to say for the record, I recused myself from this hearing, not because it's a planned residential development, and I've done those in the past. I recused myself because I made an offer on this property before this applicant did.
Ah,
So I felt it wouldn't be fair for me to sit on this hearing. So that's the reason why I recused myself.
yeah.
Such a fair guy. You
Well,
don't have to
that's
do
why I
that.
made the
That's not a
comment I
request.
did earlier.
Well, I don't want any concerns.
Right.
But the street, Timothy Board Cartway, I remember where you were on the planning board. You're the one that I remember had to put in
Yes.
the gate, the fence, and the road, and build all that.
I did, but that had nothing to do with recusal this evening.
No.
No.
So the next thing on our agenda is the planning department report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, it's a bit of a broken record, but we are continuing to work on our zoning amendments. We met with town council and our new associate town council last week and discussed some of the items that we've previously discussed with you folks. So we're thinking, to Jim's question earlier, about revisions to the ADU bylaw. One of those revisions might include removing the planning board as the site plan review granting authority, and giving it entirely to the building commissioner, but again, just a discussion item. Part of the Attorney General's response to our modifications to the ADU bylaw in November of '24 was indicating that we need to allow ADUs by right in the business district because we allow single-family homes in the business district. So therefore, we need to make an adjustment to the use table and now allow ADUs in that area. We're making small tweaks to the maximum building height table. So there's some confusing language in there that we want to try to eliminate. And then focusing on accessory structures. So there's a prohibition currently on having an ADU within a property or a lot that's over 2 acres in size. And so we see that as an issue with the Affordable Homes Act, so that's a minor tweak that we want to make. So we've got a handful of zoning amendments that we want to bring forward to the board, explain in more detail at your next meeting. And then we are looking to potentially open the public hearings in early August. So we may have a public hearing opening by August 12th, depending on advertisement window. So we're working hard on that. We met with the Cape Cod Commission today about our Mr. Cod, Mixed Residential and Commercial Overlay District Design Guidelines. We're a little bit behind schedule. By now, we were supposed to have a draft guideline document, but we're sort of still in the phase of planning our public workshop. So we went over sort of the overarching themes for that design guideline. So that's good. We've sort of continued work on that. And then the last update is, as you may have seen in the paper, we've been working really hard on the town-owned land request for proposals. We intend to have a public outreach workshop, if you will, or a meeting on July 23rd at the Senior Center, where we essentially have the draft RFPs out for the public to read, ask us questions about, provide us comments, so that we can provide that feedback to the select board later that month. And, all things going well, the select board being in a place to issue or approve us to issue the RFPs as amended in any way that the public sees fit. So we invite the public to come to July 23rd, Senior Center. I think we're starting it at 6 o'clock. There'll be a flyer in the next day or two distributed to as many people as we can find. So that's been a lot of work, and we've been busy at doing all of that for the past couple of weeks. So that is the Planning Department's report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other committee reports? I have two for the Cape Cod Commission. I want to make the board and the public aware that we're having a second hearing Thursday at 5 o'clock Thursday this week. A Zoom hearing for the Cape Cod Country Club for the solar array is being proposed. This will be our second hearing. And then also, the Cape Cod Commission is going to present for discussion the regional policy plan on July 30th at 5 o'clock at the Falmouth Public Library. I think both of those are mentioned on our website for the planning board.
John, would you say that again? The dates that they're doing that?
So we're going to have it on July 30th at 5 o'clock for discussion for the regional policy plan. They've been working on it for about a year now. We're pretty close to finalizing it.
Is that on their website now, the plan?
It is, yes.
And on the 23rd, it is what? Did you say again?
Senior Center.
Correct. That's the town-owned land RFP review, public meeting.
And this week on the 10th, on Thursday, the 10th, at 5 o'clock, we're having a second hearing for the solar array at the Cape Cod Country Club proposed. And that's all I have for committee reports. Do we have any announcements? No? Future agenda items?
I'm wondering what is happening. We were going to do something about the dark sky thing, and is anything happening?
So as part of that design guideline document for the Mr. Cod District is going to be, in fact, we talked about it today with them, an expanded section on dark sky compliant lighting, or lighting in general. So it's not just the shield that creates the dark sky compliance, but also the materials that make up the post, the style of the post, all of those things. So we hope to have some important information for the board to consider and utilize potentially in all of your projects.
Because that will apply only to very limited areas in town.
It will only apply to that. However, you have the ability to essentially use that information to ask applicants to consider that style when moving forward. So they'll be able to provide you some characteristics and some examples of good-looking lighting that applicants can consider in their developments.
That's a condition we could put on a site, on a subdivision.
It's not necessarily a condition, but you would work with the applicant to make sure that they're aware of it and, you know, essentially ask them to do it and ask them to promise to do it. You could essentially put it in as a condition. That the challenge is that you get into the details of street lighting that really isn't present in your regulations. I mean, that's another thing that we're trying to bring forward is some amendments to your regulations to give you more detail and more meat to really provide to an applicant and say, we really want to see this style. Right now, your regulations is sort of, they're a little wide open for subdivisions.
It's good to have something,
Yes,
but it's better to have something that's widely applicable.
agreed. Agreed. So it'll be a learning curve for everybody. In fact, it won't be just lighting, it'll be landscaping too. You know, we see a lot of the comments from the board about increased landscaping and making things look better. The questions that we have is, you know, how? What are some of the typical plant materials that the town would like to see? Which ones are drought tolerant? Which ones are, you know, best for this type of environment? Those types of questions we're asking the Cape Cod Commission to sort of help us out with. So as part of that design guideline effort, we've sort of got this side thing going where we're trying to give you guys a little bit more information that you can use when you're reviewing site plan review applications and special permits.
John, does the regional policy plan address lighting?
I don't believe it does.
Yeah.
It's all the larger issues. It may, no, I don't believe it does.
It could.
It could.
And
Need the library at 5 o'clock.
I'm going to be out of town on the 30th.
Thank you. Yes, Bob.
And I keep bringing up transfer of development rights, and I'm just wondering, looking at this project that was before us tonight, I could see that as a prime candidate for transferring those rights to someplace where we really would like the density. And now that we've freed up some town land, I wonder if our current transfer of development rights bylaw would work with that.
It's really tough. The TDR bylaw is very difficult to use.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure we can go into it in a separate meeting, but, you know, the basic premise is, you know, you're transferring the development rights, but then you have to put it into a subdivision.
Yeah.
And not every receiving property has the ability to make a subdivision. So it's
So that's why I'm talking
very
about
restricting.
what properties have been freed up and to look at
Yep.
those. Just a thought,
For sure.
wishful thinking.
We'll get there, Bob.
Yeah.
We'll get there. I promised Paul Shiverick's Pond, and look it, we got
Yeah,
Shiverick's Pond.
yeah, so-
We're gonna get there.
This is what 3 town planners so far have been asking.
What happened?
You got it. You go fishing off that platform.
We were last week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
A lot of
great.
turtles in it. Yeah,
it's fantastic.
yeah.
Any other future agenda items?
I make a motion, we adjourn at this
No,
point.
not yet, not yet. We have to address general correspondence.
We have nothing.
We have nothing. So, next meetings are July 22nd and August 12th, and now I will ask for a motion. So moved.
Sitting there, no one seconded.
Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.